Now, for a very long time, for over several years, Florida fans, before the start of the college football season, around August, always say how they're going to win the SEC East and how they're going to go to the SEC championship game, right? Then after the college football season ends, they're not in the SEC championship game, and they don't win the SEC East, right? But this year, I think will finally be the year Florida wins the SEC East. I think this is the year Florida can finally put it together, and they can finally win the SEC East division, right? Now, a big reason why Florida over the last several years has failed to win the East is because they can't beat Georgia. Dan Mullen, some way, somehow, cannot find a way to beat Georgia and get over the hump, right? Georgia is the only thing that is keeping Florida from making it to the SEC championship game and winning this division. Now, a lot of people like to compare Florida and Dan Mullen to Harbaugh and Michigan. Harbaugh has the same issue. Michigan has the same issue. They cannot beat Ohio State. Ohio State is the only reason why they have struggled to make it to the Big Ten championship game, right? Now, I wouldn't like to say that, Dan Mullen is Harbaugh. I wouldn't like to say that Florida is in the same situation as Michigan, because I just think that Ohio State is just a juggernaut. I just think that Ohio State right now, compared to what Michigan is, they just can't be beat right now, right? But when you look at Georgia hasn't really had that same level of dominance that Ohio State has had, right? Ohio State, in my opinion, has just had better teams than Michigan, right? Now, you can make that same argument about Georgia, but last year, I don't think Georgia's team was better than Florida's team last year. I felt Florida had a more talented team going into last year's game, right? But it's just coaching. It's just Kirby Smart was just able to outcoach Dan Mullen. And this year, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this year, Florida not only has a team to beat Georgia, but I think Dan Mullen now may have the upper hand on Kirby Smart when it comes to being able to outcoach him and finally being able to beat Georgia. Now, you're looking at a Georgia team that has a really good defense. This is probably the best defense in the country going into the 2020 college football season, but this is an offense that has a lot of question marks. First, you bring in new offensive coordinator Todd Monken, right? Now, he's probably going to have a new offensive philosophy, right? But he hasn't really had a lot of time to implement that offensive philosophy on the field because we haven't had any spring practices and things like that due to the ongoing pandemic, right? So you're looking at an offense that's probably going to be in a new system. You're going to have a lot of new faces because this is a Georgia offense that lost 3 offensive linemen to the NFL. They lost Solomon Kenley, they lost Andrew Thompson, they lost Isaiah Wilson, right? And all 3 of those guys are not your just average run-the-mill offensive linemen that run their course, declare for the NFL draft and leave. All 3 of those guys were really high-caliber offensive linemen, and all 3 of those guys are probably going to be starting week 1 come Sundays when the NFL season begins, right? So not only do you lose 3 of the best some of the best offensive linemen in the nation, but you also lose DeAndre Swift. Now, I know they're probably going to have some halfbacks that step up and replace DeAndre Swift, but the biggest loss is the 3 offensive linemen that they lost, right? So you're going to have 3 new guys filling in for the guys that they lost to the NFL. And although Georgia fans are probably going to name the guys who they're going to have in stepping in to replace those guys, the fact of the matter is you lost 3 guys to the NFL. These were NFL caliber offensive linemen, and you lost them, right? Now, you got Jamie Newman at the quarterback position. He's going to be an upgrade over Jake Fromm. But overall, this is a Georgia offense that has a lot of question marks. Who's going to be the number 2 option, other than George Pickens, who is going to be their number 1 option, right? Who's going to complement him? Who's going to be the wide receivers that step up in the passing game? It's just a lot of question marks when it comes to this Georgia offense. Now this defense is going to be able to carry them, but to what extent? Because eventually, in this day and age of college football, if you want to win a championship, you got to be able to at least be able to put up 40. Can this Georgia offense do that? I don't really know, but can Florida's offense do that? Heck yeah, they can. This is a Florida offense that is going to be really good. The offensive line was very young last year. You're looking at this offensive line that coming into this 2020 college football season is going to be a lot better compared to what they were last year because they're going to have a lot more experience on their hands and they're going to be a lot better. Now, you also got Kyle Trask coming back, who is probably one of the biggest surprises in college football behind Joe Burrow. This was a guy who didn't start the season Felipe Franks was the starter starting out the 2019 season. Then he suffered an injury. Kyle Trask came and then ran away with the starting quarterback spot. He had 2,941 pass yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completed 66.9% of his passes. So you're looking at Kyle Trask, who is probably going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC this upcoming season. You got Damian Pierce, you got Malik Davis at the halfback position. At the wide receiver position, they are absolutely stacked. You got Kadarius Toney, who is most likely going to end up being one of the best receivers if he goes into the NFL draft next year. You got Trayvon Grimes, you got Jacob Copeland, so you have a really good wide receiving core, right? Then you also got tight end Kyle Pitts, who may arguably be the best tight end in all of college football, right? Now, that remains to be decided if it's either him or Brevin Jordan, the tight end that plays for the University of Miami. But, I mean, you're looking at a Florida offense that is absolutely stacked. They have a lot of guys returning. They didn't really lose all that much talent to the NFL. So, I mean, you look at Dan Mullen. He has the upper hand when it comes to Georgia's offense. Georgia's offense lost a lot of players to the NFL, a lot of key players to the NFL. And they haven't really had a lot of time to get on the practice field and sort things out and get this offense clicking. So when the college football season basically begins, Florida's offense is going to be ahead of Georgia's offense, right? Now, Georgia's defense is still probably going to be good. Georgia has a better defense than Florida, right? Florida lost a lot of guys to the NFL. You lost Greenard, you lost Zuniga, you lost C.J. Henderson. But even then, they still have a pretty solid defense. I mean, you got Marco Wilson, who should be one of the better defensive backs in the SEC. Now, Marco Wilson was supposed to have like a breakout season last year. A lot of Florida fans were really raving about him, but his season was really disappointing. Now, I'm not saying that his season was terrible, but it wasn't the season that a lot of the Florida fans were hyping him up to have, right? So he should be coming into this year looking to have a bounce back season. You still have a pretty solid defense for the most part, right? Now, I think this is the year that Florida could beat Georgia and win this SEC East, right? And it's not just Georgia. Like the SEC East in general over the last few years hasn't really been all that strong. It's basically been Georgia and Florida for over the last several years battling for SEC East supremacy, besides from that 1 year, a few years ago that Kentucky had, and they were a little bit of a factor in the division. Now, I know a lot of people are really high on Tennessee, but I don't think Tennessee is there right now to be competing with Florida and Georgia right now. I still think that Tennessee is an 8-4 team. I don't think they're quite there yet when it comes to being able to compete for that SEC East crown, right? But they could be a little bit of a factor. They are like a dark horse sleeper pick, but I'm not really expecting them to have all that much of an impact on the SEC East championship race when it comes to Georgia and Florida. But when you look at Florida, Florida has all the keys. They have all the talent available to finally be able to knock off the University of Georgia, right? And unlike Michigan, Ohio State is going to be stacked for the next few years, right? But when you're looking at a Georgia team, this is a Georgia team that right now offensively is down. This is probably the worst Georgia team that we've seen out of Georgia compared to their previous teams they had over the last 3 years, right? So this may be one of the most lackluster teams that Georgia has put on the field over the last few seasons. And I'm not saying that to, insult Georgia or anything like that. I'm just saying that compared to the more talented Georgia teams that they've put on the field, this Georgia team isn't really going to be all that good compared to what they've had the last few seasons, right? Now, the defense is still going to be good, right? But the offense is just a big question mark. There's no way you can tell me that you can lose 3 offensive linemen, high-quality offensive linemen that are going to be starting week 1 in the NFL, and you're going to tell me that you're going to lose those 3 guys. Your offensive line is still going to have that same production that they had years prior. I don't believe that. I just don't see that happening. So I think that it is possible to see this Georgia offensive line take a step back. They also brought in Todd Monken, so they're trying to implement a new system. So you look at Florida, who basically has been playing in the same system for the last few years. You got a lot of experience. You got a better offense than you had last year with how good the offensive line is going to be. So, I mean, the cards are all stacked in Florida's favor to win the SEC East. Now, I'm not saying that they are going to win the SEC East. I'm not making any bold prediction or anything like that. I'm just saying that if there was a better opportunity for Florida to take away that SEC East crown from Georgia, this will be the season to do it. Because Georgia has a lot of question marks. They're still trying to figure a lot of things out offensively, right? And if you want to be able to win in college football, you got to be able to score some points. You got to be able to put up 40. And can Georgia do that? That's the question, right? Now, last year, that offense really struggled with Jake Fromm. I think Jake Fromm held them back a little bit. But, I mean, this offense could struggle a little bit more this year because of the offensive line. They lost 3 offensive linemen to the NFL. I don't know how many times I got to repeat that, but that is like a big loss. There's no way you lose 3 guys to the NFL and still expect to have that same quality of production on the offensive line. So, when you look at Florida, they have all the cards in their hand to win the SEC East this year. The SEC East isn't typically all that strong. It's basically Georgia. Tennessee may be a little bit of a factor, but I don't really know. Kentucky, I don't really know. So, I mean, I think if there was a year for Florida to win the SEC East, it would be this year in 2020. Now, let me know what you guys think about the Florida Gators down in the comment section down below. Do you guys feel they can win the SEC East this year? Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and college football videos. And thanks for watching.